The FTX scandal that absolutely destroyed the previous bull run in its tracks is finally coming to a head. And we are seeing some really disturbing information that is coming out from people like Caroline Ellison. Let's dive into this. Was it worse than we originally thought? Welcome back. We are diving into this story because all of a sudden in the last 48 hours, we're starting to see some really interesting takes leak out of this whole entire FTX scandal and the comments that Caroline Ellison has made, among other people. Now, at the time of this recording, I just saw a tweet come by saying that Genesis Trading has halted withdrawals. I don't know if that's 100% true just yet, so I'm waiting to see more information come out. Most likely going to end up doing a clip about it or putting it in the weekly episode. But today's clip is us taking a look at a little bit more of the information that has been uncovered from the FTX debacle. And it's very interesting, right? You'd think that that this multi-billion-dollar, so to speak, operation would have had much more checks and balances, but apparently had a lot less checks and balances than we could all ever imagine. Anyways, let's dive into it. Let's take a look at a couple of tweets and then a story. Here we go. This is a tweet from Autism Capital. Caroline Ellison of FTX admits that Sam bribed Chinese officials with $100 million to unfreeze their assets. Purposely tried to scam Saudi investors in the final days of FTX, intentionally tried to sic regulators on Binance to destroy his competition. And it's only lunchtime. Okay, so that's, I mean, if you think for a second, right, if you think for a second that this doesn't get dirtier, you're wrong. It gets dirtier. Okay, we've got this awesome tweet here out of Sasha Hodler, and here we go. Caroline Ellison has admitted she and Sam tried to keep the Bitcoin price under 20K. Okay, and then there is some evidence where Sam had told her to essentially, anytime the price of Bitcoin was above 20K, to just keep selling it as long as it's above 20K. Anyways, Sam tried to get regulators to prosecute Binance, that we already know, and Sam thought he would be the president of the U.S. That's interesting. I mean, don't get me wrong. He definitely bought as many politicians as he possibly could, but apparently he didn't buy enough of them or didn't pay enough. Either way, let's dive into a little bit more of the nitty-gritty, because honestly, this was definitely a mom and pop shop operation, and it's frightening. It is absolutely frightening. We're going to take a look at this story now from AMB Crypto, and here we go. Alameda Research whistleblower reveals shocking $190 million in losses. In a startling revelation, a former engineer at Alameda Research, the sister hedge fund of cryptocurrency exchange FTX, has disclosed significant losses in trading funds totaling at least $190 million due to avoidable scams. The rapid pace often led to major security incidents occurring every few months. One of the most noteworthy exploits occurred when a trader at Alameda Research inadvertently clicked on a malicious link that was prominently displayed in Google search results. This simple action resulted in the loss of over $100 million of the firm's funds during a decentralized finance transaction. I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh at that, but that just sounds like a load of crap. Not that they got scammed. They definitely got scammed. But that whole decentralized transaction, like, dude, you got scammed. It doesn't make a difference what type of transaction that was. Like, you clicked a shitty link. Somehow that computer had access to over $100 million worth of funds that were easily siphonable. So yeah, obviously there's a problem with your security practices, or was a problem with the security practices, because FTX no longer exists. Another significant loss stemmed from Alameda's involvement in yield farming. Wow, that's a shock. On a blockchain of questionable legitimacy, eventually resulting in losses exceeding $40 million. The whistleblower detailed the firm's culture of prioritizing speed and agility, which often came at the expense of industry standard engineering and accounting practices. So we'll get back to that in a second, because that is something that is done, that it's just a very typical way of doing work, especially for Silicon Valley. And if we give more of a generalization, we'll just say programming, right? Just creating software in general. Move fast and break things. It's not just a moniker. I mean, this is how, unfortunately, many product managers and even program managers and even dev managers see pushing a product out. So yeah, it's not unusual to move fast and break things. The only difference is that you're not supposed to do it with people's money. That's, it's one thing if you do it with a piece of software and you patch it up and it doesn't have to do with their money. Like it's no serious loss. But this is not the kind of environment you want to be moving fast and break things. And this is why, as Bitcoiners, we always talk about how you want to stay away from the altcoins. You want to stay away from putting your value in there, because this is the mentality that they're using to build out these shitty ecosystems. In another incident, an old version of plain text files containing keys to Alameda's wallets was leaked. This allowed an attacker to transfer funds out of specific exchanges and incurring losses exceeding $50 million. Plain text files with keys? That is freaking brutal. Anyways, Bharadwaj revealed the numerous other incidents of a similar magnitude occurred before his time at the firm. In doing so, he pointed to a pattern of inadequate security practices. These revelations from the former engineer come amid ongoing legal proceedings involving FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried. Former Alameda CEO Caroline Ellison has testified against Bankman-Fried in a fraud trial. Other former colleagues such as Adam Yedida and Gary Wang have also provided substantial evidence against the billionaire entrepreneur. Wang admitted to writing specific code that allowed Alameda to engage in trading with a near unlimited line of credit from FTX, raising concerns about the firm's financial practices. For her part, Ellison has elaborated on the alleged mingling of funds between FTX and Alameda. Okay, so obviously this is no surprise, right? We've been following this for a very long time, essentially since the bull market started to wind down after the what was it? I think it was after the second time we hit the 69K range, because the first time, from people who will remember this from the previous bull run, it was the Chinese mining ban. Okay, so first we had the Chinese mining ban that shot us down from 69K, and then we started to build back up again, and then the FTX implosion began to occur. So essentially, this is not, we're at the point now where this whole story is wrapping up, and we're just getting the dirty details on how poorly they managed that business. Okay. Now, the piece that I wanted to talk about before, about the moving fast and break things. So, I mean, it's no surprise. I've told people this, many, many times. I worked for a few Fortune 500 companies, and the last one that I worked for, essentially, one of our customers was a very large Silicon Valley customer, and they wanted to have a special piece of hardware created for them. Okay, they wanted to have something that no one else had, and they wanted to be the first ones, right? They wanted to be the first ones to implement it and possibly end up marketing the product, right? So the company that I worked for, our motto was to move fast and break things, okay? Even though realistically, the type of field that I was in was not the kind of field you want to be moving fast and breaking things in, because it is mission critical hardware and software. So it's not the place to do that. But you see, when you're dealing with somebody who's super hungry, right, themselves, because again, as much as we don't want to admit it, everything is about individual incentives, okay? And sometimes it's very difficult to see that. But when you have somebody that always wants to make a name for themselves, that always wants to be number one, that always wants to be at the top, that always wants to make sure that they are the ones to push the envelope, well, they're going to cut corners at some point. At some point, there is going to be a sacrifice that is going to be made. Either the quality of the product, right? Maybe the testing of the product. Anyways, the point is that this customer that wanted this application from us, the company I worked for spent almost, I think it was between $5 and $7 million developing this, and of course they did it very quickly. And lo and behold, when the product was presented to the customer wanted nothing to do with it. Okay, so that was literally just millions of dollars flushed down the toilet, all because they wanted to move so fast that they didn't care if they broke things. It didn't matter. And the product didn't even work properly. So again, more of the move fast, break things, which brings us to the next point. A lot of people, many companies simply accept what they call an MVP, right? The minimum viable product, or the minimal viable product, however you want to pronounce it. But essentially, that is just language to say, we're giving you something. It doesn't really do what you think it's going to do. It isn't going to work the way you think it's going to work 100%, but we delivered on time. And this is the minimum feature set that you can have. So going back now, full circle to this Alameda stuff. He wanted to be the biggest. He wanted to do that the fastest. And it didn't matter what corners Sam Bankman-Fried and Caroline and whoever else was involved, right? It didn't matter what corners they had to cut in order to get there. And don't get me wrong, but I've seen this now in several different occasions where the people that decide to cut corners and move fast to get to the finish line, they seem to get wrecked really fast. And even if their product ends up being successful, at some point, that behavior ends up biting them in the ass. So this, as corny as it seems, goes back to the tortoise and the hare. I mean, you might be the biggest and the first to market and whatever it is, but if you're not actually building on a proper foundation, then you're building on sand. And if you're building on sand, then it isn't going to take very much to knock you over, as we saw with FTX. As much as they had all of these wonderful celebrities touting all of these wonderful features and, right, giving everybody the warm and fuzzies, this thing was built on sand and it completely collapsed. Anyways, guys, moral of the story, obviously, one of the morals is don't keep your Bitcoin on exchanges, because as you can see, all they're going to do is rehypothecate it. All they're going to do is use it indirectly for shady crap for themselves. And when I say themselves, I'm talking about the exchanges. Now, I'm not saying all of the exchanges are absolute scams, okay? And I'm not saying that all exchanges are sketchy. But what I am saying is, if you're going to use an exchange, use it for the simple task. Do not make it into your custodian. Like if you're going to go and, you have no other way or whatever it is, and that's how you're buying Bitcoin, well, don't leave it there. I know it's easy. I know it's way easier, okay? But guess what? That ease comes at a cost, okay? And when it comes to Bitcoin, that cost is not worth it. You're just better off taking the extra 30 seconds and moving your coins to your own cold storage. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think. Put it in the comments. Don't forget to drop us a like and subscribe. Help us grow the channel. I will catch you guys all next week.